I think it's the first, for one, the development aspect of it, right? And then the fact that there's no other place, no other game in the rest of the world that is as close as the NBA as it is to the NBL. And I'm talking about style of play, pace, the development aspect of it, understanding the game, having a chance to play with older guys or bigger, stronger guys. That's very hard to do, and not everybody can do that.
Nothing but net. Aussie Hoops presented by Amy starts now. Hoopsfest is in the books and Rryan Broekhoff has a major tweak to improve the event moving forward. Olgun Uluc, well, he's got the latest on the possibility of Montrezl Harrell staying in the league, plus the legendary duo of Andrew Gazey and Leonard Copeland. They're going to bring a take on first-round potential draft pick Alex Tui. But let's get going with some NBL headlines to start. And we did speak about Hoopsfest. It was a massive success. And now we need to bring in the best newsbreaker in Australia, Olgun Uluc, and the NBA and NBL star, now media star, Rryan Broekhoff. Ryan, when are you getting here, by the way? It's been weeks. I'm waiting for you. I'm sick of being here alone in the studio. What's the countdown down to?
2 more weeks. So that second week of October, I'll be in studio and we'll be able to take this in person and have some fun with it.
All right, I can't wait. Olgun, I said you're the best newsbreaker in Australia, and Hoopsfest in the books. We mentioned that. Can we categorically lock in Hoopsfest for next year, but not just next year, but also in Perth?
So I can't lock it in, but from what I understand, there was a meeting between the NBL's owner, Larry Kestelman, the CEO, David Stevenson, in the WA Parliament. They went to the Parliament to meet with the Deputy Premier, right? And so there are talks already ongoing about this thing being back in Perth. I was there all weekend. It was a really enjoyable time. It was the Basketball Without Borders camp, the fan zone that you see right there, the NBL regular season games, WNBL preseason games bleeding into those. So it was a really fun weekend. Can there be some tweaks? Sure. This was something that was added to the calendar really late on, right? So this was sort of a trial period. But I think the NBL sees this as a roaring success. The WA government sees it as a success. And it seems like we're tracking toward this being in Perth again.
Yeah, it's interesting. And you did rub it in that you were there, and Ryan, we did not have the benefit of being in Perth, and it's probably a different product on TV. But what did you make of it? And do you think that there is any possibility for change moving forward if, as Olgun suggests, it seems like they want to run it back next season?
I love the idea of it. I love the spectacle. Speaking to people around the league, the activations were fun. All the basketball without borders, WNBL, NBL. You've got the junior club championships. It really was a bit of a mecca for basketball, and would have been loved to have been there in person. But I think running it straight off the Blitz probably took a little bit away from it. I think the timing of the event probably could change. Maybe we put it more mid-season, make it its own event. And I think starting the season with Tassie and Melbourne, without it being a home game for either club, maybe took some of the excitement out of that first game. But love the idea. It'd be great to get back to Perth. I also had the idea of maybe this event turns into maybe the All-Star the weekend that they've been talking about. Maybe we introduce that. It's some years down the track. There's been rumbles about it. They'd love to get it back. Maybe this is the stepping stone to getting that back in the NBL.
Yeah, I like it. That's the first time that I've heard that. Yes, we've heard All-Star. Yes, we've heard Hoopsfest, but combining the two. As a player, do you think that there is room for both? You already mentioned the Blitz in the preseason. And when you were back in the league, is it even something that you would be interested in? Because I like the idea.
I think so. I think, as I said, not straight after the Blitz. You're kind of going from one preseason to basically what almost feels like a second preseason tournament. It just doesn't have the normal feel of a round one game. But I love having all the teams in one space, the games that count, and then doing some fun functions and activations on top of that. And if that leads to an All-Star weekend, I think that makes sense.
All right, well, it was said first here. Rryan Broekhoff has that take, if it eventuates down the road. So we look forward to that being the case. And if there was an All-Star game this season, you would think that Montrezl Harrell, based on what he did in round one, would be a part of that. But it wasn't just the box score stats. He was also mic'd up, which was very entertaining. I did ask whether we could take the beeps away, but they said that is probably not the case for this family show. Nothing but net Aussie hoops. Olgun Uluc, he was an injury replacement. We know the 36ers still waiting on Jarrell Martin, but he played so well. If you are the 36ers or potentially other teams in the league, you'd be looking at this guy and saying, if he wants to stick around, we want him on our roster. What is the situation in Adelaide, and is there any path to him staying beyond that initial short-term contract?
Yeah, so Kane, when Montrezl Harrell first got to Australia, he made it really, really clear that this is a stepping stone for him to get to the NBA again, right? He wants to use this as a pathway. So theoretically, he could be gone at any moment, right? As soon as an NBA team calls, he will go and take that contract. Now, Jarrell Martin's injury will have him out for probably 5, 6, 7 more weeks. So we should have Montrezl Harrell here for that amount of time. Now, when Jarrell Martin does get healthy, they can't keep him because their roster is full. So what they would have to do is they would have to deactivate a local player. You're looking at some of those guys at the end of the bench, the DNPs from last game, maybe an Alex Starling. They would have to deactivate one of those to make room for Montrezl Harrell, and then one of Dejan Vasiljevic and Isaac Humphries would have to be taken off the marquee listing for the games that 3 imports play. So there is an avenue for Montrezl Harrell to stay here. And in that game that we just saw, that was a neutral Perth crowd that really quickly turned into an Adelaide 36ers crowd 5 minutes in because of Montrezl Harrell. Mike Wells called him an entertainer after the game. There is value in keeping him. There are some things that you have to do in order to keep him here, but it is very doable.
Well, it's interesting you say the crowd got behind him there, because he did get a warning for just saying hello to some of the local fans over in Perth. Ryan, you've seen imports come into this league and how challenging it can be. What did you make of the performance? He'd been around this team for 1 week and straight away was able to have that level of impact.
It was incredibly impressive how quickly he was able to adjust, just getting off the plane, having not really played for the last year as well, coming off his own injury. He was dominant at times, and he's still going to find his legs. He's still going to find how he fits within this team. But he's got the motor, the athleticism. He sort of fills a different role, being a lob threat, and the ability for him to face up out of the post and attack the rim. It's just different to what Isaac Humphries brings you. And maybe that's the next question. How does this fit with Isaac? And I think we're going to touch on that later, but it was so exciting. He's worth the price of admission just to come to a game. And who hasn't wanted to say a few words to the Perth crowd?
Yeah, an entertainer, which the league would be very happy about. Olgun Uluc, thank you very much. You're outstanding as always. Ryan, you stick around because we've got more coming up on Nothing But Net Aussie Hoops. And yes, we are going to talk about Adelaide. Ryan should be just hosting this show because he led us right there. But now that the dust has settled, we'll talk about Perth and that team Adelaide. Stick around.
Great results as Cooks comes back. Get that up out of here. Everything playing through Jalen Adams. 25 points, 6 rebounds. Darius Days with 20 points to go with his 12 rebounds.
But boy, this game's at a super high pace as Daly goes with the reverse.
Consecutive points.
Nice to play.
Cotton. Another one. 8 3-pointers for Cotton.
This is Nothing But Net Aussie Hoops presented by Amy, and the dust has settled on round 1 of NBL 25, and there are plenty of talking points, but we have had to select just a couple, and I've acquired the help of Rryan Broekhoff, who has stuck around with us and going to be a big part of this show right throughout the year. And the Perth Wildcats, I want to start there. They might be one of the more impressive winners out of week 1. And to me, I always bang on about it. Continuity in this league. This team has the same starting group as they had last season, and they looked ready to play from the start, understood each other. What did you make of that performance against Southeast Melbourne?
They were the most impressive team to me in round 1, and having that continuity helps. But I really love the new additions to the team, and someone like Ben Henshaw, who's taken a big step up from last season, has earned Coach Riley's trust. His ability to come on the floor, make an impact, and getting other guys involved took some of the pressure off Bryce Cotton, and we know what Bryce Cotton can do. He ripped that game apart in that first quarter, back-to-back threes. It was a sight to see him firing from the beginning, but these extra pieces, they've got more scoring coming off the bench now. They've addressed the rebounding, which was a big problem with Windler. Although he's only a wing, he's a fantastic rebounder for his size. And let's not forget about Keanu Pindu, who just came out ready to fire, shooting the ball with confidence. And once he starts making those threes, how do you stop him? He's quicker than you. He's more athletic. He can get to the rim, put the ball on the floor. And if he's knocking down that three, good luck guarding the Perth Wildcats.
Yeah, and Al Munster, the next star as well, was impressive for mine. Let me come back, question without notice real quick. So Keanu Pinder, you said, how do you stop him? He was 4 for 8 from 3 in this game. He was dominant getting downhill again. What is the key to trying to slow him down, because he comes in this year healthy and he looks like getting back to that level of play he had when he was with the Taipans?
It's a conundrum, really, because Perth have so many shooters, and you've obviously got Bryce Cotton to worry about. He's getting the majority of the focus defensively, but I think you've got to just risk it with him taking the outside shot right now, forcing probably to his left hand, keeping the ball out of his strong right. But he's got so many counters now to his game and the ball on the floor. But he was doing everything. He was scoring off pick and roll, being the lob, being the roller, and dunking on people. He was everywhere that game. So I don't have a clear answer because I don't know.
Yeah, stick around. Andrew Gazey is going to have more on the performance of Bryce Cotton, maybe already staking a claim to yet another MVP. That's coming up on Nothing But Net Aussie Hoops. So let's go to Adelaide then. And yes, they lost, but it was against the Sydney Kings team that we expect to be dominant. And they had stretches in this game where they looked awesome offensively. Isaac Humphries, not so much the case. And I feel like it is a talking point all the time. How did Adelaide get him involved? But I look at the numbers last year, 15.7 rebounds, a block per game. He was pretty good and healthy. So what did you make of the performance? And is there any reason to panic when it comes to Isaac Humphries?
I don't know about panicking right now. It's obviously the first game, and he'd be very disappointed. And we saw this a little bit from Adelaide last season. He got off to more of a slow start before finding his footing. There was a change in their philosophy, but from the beginning of the game, there wasn't an emphasis to throw the ball down to him and get him some early touches. Adelaide want to play high tempo. They want to play pick and roll. They've got great shooting. They've got guys who can create for others. So right now, it's just not fitting into their style of play, but I was very impressed by Adelaide multiple times getting down by 10 plus points and being able to dig themselves out. For a team that's gone through a lot of controversy, to come together was really impressive. But Humphries, we're going to have to keep an eye on him, because for them to go far, I feel like they've got to find ways to get him involved.
Yeah, I agree. And you say style of play, though, and we just spoke about Montrezl Harrell and how entertaining he was. But when you had those two on the floor, you kind of have two non-shooters. And I wonder whether you think that actually Jarrell Martin might be a better fit, a guy that can space the floor, and you've got the one big man that can play that pick and roll game and maybe be able to score in the paint.
Yeah, I think once Martin comes back, he'll open up a lot of stuff. Having two non-shooters in today's basketball is really hard. Everyone sort of clogs the paint, and then they don't have to get out to the shooters. And Harrell fits what they're trying to do. He's better at getting up and down. He likes the high tempo NBA style offense, spreading the floor out, being able to attack off the dribble. And his strengths are not Humphrey's strengths. He needs the ball close to the basket, being able to use his frame and size to be able to get in close and finish around the rim. But his rebounding numbers were also down. He just looked a little step too slow, out of sorts. So maybe it's just one of those games where it wasn't his night, and he'll bounce back next week.
Yeah, frustrated with some of those fouls, it looked like as well. But overall, probably a pretty positive afternoon for the Adelaide 36ers. Not so for the Brisbane Bullets. And I have to look down at my notes here because they did lose to New Zealand. They were down by 20 points at the end of the third quarter. And post-game, head coach Justin Schuller used a couple of sentences I'm going to read here. Pathetic performance by us. Not the standard we expect. The kick in the ass we needed. Ryan, this is week one. I'm surprised. They were impressive in the preseason. But what do you make when you've got new imports, a new team? You're trying to figure it all out. What does that honesty, really, from Justin Schuller do for a group? How do they respond?
It's going to come down to the leadership of the players and how that group has really gelled. I think most of us thought they'd figured it out. They'd played high minutes to their main rotation guys throughout the blitz to build that continuity and to get guys adjusted. And they laid an egg first round, a game that, on paper you think they had a reasonable shot to win, but to put in that performance and really not turn up for 35 minutes. And when the game's basically dead and buried, finally show the defensive fight that Schuller's looking for. So as a player, to be honest, I don't watch too many of the coaches' press conferences when I was a player, but it's definitely something that would have got back to them. And hopefully it lights a fire and they come out, because they've got a big challenge this week.
Yeah, they outscored New Zealand 35-19 in the fourth, too little too late. Also referenced in the post-game press conference, got to be better in the paint. How do they establish the big men? I didn't see big minutes from Rocco Zikarsky. He's going to be a player we continue to watch.
Yeah, it was interesting that New Zealand were able to beat Brisbane at their own game almost. They out-rebounded them by 10. New Zealand got on the offensive rebounds. They were able to get into the paint. And they really attacked the bigs out of the pick and roll, getting them away from the basket, opening things up, finding shooters. And with Brisbane taking some bad shots and turnovers, they were living out of transition. So that doesn't suit Rocco. It doesn't suit Harrison. So it was a tough night for them. And just kind of like with Humphries, there wasn't a thought to get the ball into the post early and establish that inside presence to open things up for the shooters.
Yeah, really tough couple of games coming up for the Bullets as well. Round 2 probably feels too early to panic or feel like it's a must-win, but it feels like a must-respond game anyway for this Brisbane Bullets team looking to get on track. Rryan Broekhoff, outstanding again. I can't wait for you to get here, my friend. It's great to see you.
Thanks, mate.
All right, so you might have noticed that we haven't spoken about the NBA yet on this show, but don't panic. Training camps are just getting underway, and we're going to get to that. And there's going to be so many highlights, but it's not always perfect. This is when Hoops turn to Oops, presented by Amy.
Victor's like, hey, there's a bat. Everybody's freaking out.
Handle the pressure, quickly loses his footing and loses the ball out of bounds. And it may have gone off Travis Scott.
Jaylen Brown is just noticing. He's got his shorts on backwards.
And then Peyton Watson was going up for the windmill and basically just blew a tire.
One fake, two fake, drop off, dunk. Gorgeous.
And the three bounces over the top. Where's Boba? Where's Boba? Oh, look at that. There we go. Let's go. What?
I guess we've set the tone with the first game, haven't we?
So much excitement about this man. Cox, always excitement about this man. Bryce Cotton's got 3 early. Low numbers for Cotton. He can knock down this shot.
One step, two step, like he rolling dice.
Cotton at the other end. Step back for Bryce. Got another one.
Turn it up, Bryce.
Cotton, another one. 8 3-pointers for Cotton, who is stringing them along tonight.
Bryce Cotton, not surprisingly, outstanding in the Perth Wildcats. Round 1 win over South East Melbourne Phoenix. This is Nothing But Net, presented by Amy. And I am very happy now. In fact, it warms the heart to be joined by the legendary duo, Andrew Gazey and Leonard Copeland. Two guys that when I started in the sports media world, they lifted me up. They encouraged me right from the start. Gazey, it's great to see you. And thank you once again, mate. I'll always be thanking you for that.
Well, it's quite extraordinary, really, because Kane, because Copes and I, when you first started, we gave you very little chance, very little hope, but somehow or other you're able to work your way through it all, and now you're sitting over there in the United States and you're the guru of ESPN. Well, congratulations to you, my friend.
No, thank you very much. Weaseled my way in there somehow. It's to the shock of many people, but something that was a bit of a shock to me as well over the weekend. Copes, I started to get DMs. I started to get tagged on social media, people saying that I needed to ask you about this. You've done everything in your careers, you two fellas, but now video game world, NBA 2K25. What did you make of this, the likeness, and are you thrilled to be on NBA 2K25?
I am thrilled, Kane, but I wasn't happy about the mustache. You got to get rid of the mustache. But then I seen that one of Gazey, and I was okay with mine. Trust me. Look at that. It looks like he has dreads, like blonde dreads. What's going on there, Kane?
That is extraordinary. It completely doesn't look anything like me whatsoever. I'm sure there's been a glitch. Hopefully a glitch allows me to bang threes from all over the joint. But Copes with the hair. And plus, usually you put on weight when you get older. They've got him. He's like 15 kilo overweight in that image. So no, it wasn't a great likeness. But what an honour to be on the game.
No, it looks like prime Gazey and Copes. I think Gazey probably should have been in the Spurs uni over the Washington. But either way, I'm sure plenty of fans right across Australia will be downloading you as players and knocking down those threes and dunking the both of you. We know you can do that. Hey, I mentioned the Perth Wildcats and Bryce Cotton. He was outstanding in the opener, Gazey. You were on the call, and I don't know how many times we've had the conversation about, is he the best player in the league? Is he the best import? Where does he sit all time? But the one thing that continues to stand out to me, 9th season in the league, and he still plays with a chip on his shoulder, like he has to prove everything to everyone, and that's a sign of his greatness.
No doubt. It was another extraordinary display. He had 8 3-pointers. He was 8 of 16, so he missed all his other 8 shots from inside the 3-point line. He wasn't able to connect, and he actually missed a few bunnies. So it was a 26-point outing and very, very efficient. The way the Perth Wildcats played this game, if it's any indication of how they're going to play throughout the course of the season, they're going to be exciting team to watch. They took 47 3-point field goal attempts, and what made it special is they were able to make 19 of them for 40% from the field. So, but Bryce Cotton, he's the head of the snake. When in doubt, they go to Bryce. But I think we're underselling also what Keanu Pinder did in that game. That game got tight throughout the periods of it, and when it did get tight, it was Keanu Pinder that really stepped up big time. So it's an incredible 1-2 punch, and there's no doubt in my mind that they are going to be one of the top 4 teams in the competition this season.
Yeah, and you mentioned the 47 3-point attempts that they had, while the Sydney Kings had 44 3-point attempts in their game, and they now are going to play each other in round 2, Friday night, 9:30 p.m. On ESPN, your home for hoops. And Copes, you saw the Sydney Kings, and for me, this was the best game of round 1, the Sydney Kings and the Adelaide 36ers. And I wanted to ask you about Alex Tui. I don't know if you remember this back a few years ago on the jump when we tried to set up a joke. Tui's new, and the delivery, it wasn't quite right. And that's when he was in the Boomers squad. But now he's not just a new Boomer. This is a guy that looks like he is ready to play a consistent, everyday role. He was outstanding.
He was fantastic. 15 points, shot the ball extremely well. He rebounded extremely well. He won't be in our league much longer. I think he has the size, the temperament to play. He plays like a veteran, and I said that back in the day. Well, I was impressed with the way he played. He came in and did a very good job in this game.
And Gazey, you can go to Tui if you like, but I hear the commentary, and it makes sense. We're all asking the question, this team is so stacked. The idea of having too much talent, I always laugh at that. But what did you see in the rotations, and what do you expect moving forward? Because Oliver was awesome, Cooks was awesome, Adams looked like an MVP again.
Well, trying to keep all these guys happy is going to be the biggest challenge. I was at the Intercontinental Cup, and I saw Unicaja Malaga, and they do it extraordinarily well. Last season in Spain, throughout the Spanish League, they didn't have a single player on the roster that averaged more than 20 minutes a game. Now, I don't see that happening with the Sydney Kings, but they have a similar type depth to their lineup. I think Alex Tui is going to be a star. If he keeps playing like the way he did the other night, he has a prospect of being a first-round pick. Oliver, he's inside, outside, really versatile, and we all know Jalen Adams, what he's capable of doing. So, and we haven't even touched on Xavier Cooks, who had the 19 points. What was it? 13 boards, something outrageous like that. So they are the team to beat. They've got the most talent of any team in the competition, and they're going to be a hard out to get them because of their depth, and they're built for all different circumstances.
Yeah, but Copes, they might be the team to beat. I totally agree. I think everyone is saying that. But Perth made a statement. Now they've got the continuity. It's not hard to win in Perth. You know that from experience. What do you think is going to happen this Friday night? It feels like so early in the season, this is must-watch, and this is going to be a big test.
Well, I tell you what, I don't think Cotton will get off 8 threes. I know Brian Gorgon is a defensive coach, and I had a chance to ask him that pre-game. He said, look, we're going to go with what we go with, but we're going to play defense. And if you're not playing defense with me, you're going to come sit down. So I reckon it's going to be a very good game. You're right. It's hard to win in Perth, but Sydney are so stacked. We haven't even talked about Galloway, who just come back from the NBA. They have so many guys that can go out and play good defense. Bull Quall, who is a great defensive player, I reckon they'll start him on Cotton, and it should be a very good game.
Yeah, bull qual, stay out of foul trouble. That's always a talking point as we watch.
Right.
Hey, guys, it's been awesome to see you. We know we're going to catch up right throughout the season. Enjoy the weekend and safe travels, Gazey.
Thank you, Kano. Looking forward to the weekend's action.
All right, we've got plenty more coming up on Nothing But Net Aussie Hoops. And those two guys, they knew how to throw down a dunk. Gazey with the all-timer down in beautiful Geelong. We've got the top dunks from round one coming up next. Nothing But Net Aussie Hoops presented by Amy rolls on. And look, there's only been 1 week in the NBL, so it might be a little bit too early to take anything majorly from this. But if you are a fan of the Illawarra Hawks, maybe the fact that you will like is that you won the game by 27 points. And who knows, the percentage, that could count for something on the back end of the season. And alternatively, Brisbane, no, you didn't get the win, but that 35-19 fourth quarter, that could count the longer this season goes. So no need to panic too much for fans of these teams. But there was reasons to celebrate for fans right throughout round one, and there's nothing that gets you going more than the big dunks. So let's take a look at some of the best of round one. And how about the returning Jack White? Shea Illy misses. Jack White on clean-up duty. We know he is one of the best athletes in the league. How good was it to see Jack White back after his stint in the US, back in the league at home? Now, Montrezl Harrell, I don't know why. The seas have parted, Brian Gorge, and he's not going to be happy with that defense. We don't know how many dunks we've got left of Montrezl Harrell in the league, so enjoy that. And thank goodness the rim was able to hold up there. And Keanu Pinder, maybe he's trying to put himself in the MVP conversation. That two-man game, Bryce Cotton, Keanu Pinder, that is going to be impossible to stop right throughout the season. They were 3 of the best dunks from round one in the NBL, and we know that we've got plenty more coming up this weekend. Thanks to Gazey, Copes, Olgun Uluc and Rryan Broekhoff. Enjoy round 2 of the NBL. If your team didn't win, I hope they do better this week. We'll see you next week.